Yet with the increasing numbers of women being sent to prison, overcrowding and the lack of facilities leaves women feeling that, as Linda states, it's just been a waste of time. You're meant to come into prison to rehabilitate yourself. I'm rehabilitating myself by sitting on my arse all day. Do you know what I mean? These here prison officers don't make you get a job. You have to get up and go round the prison to look for one. A job's not going to rehabilitate me. All it's going to do is give me money. They tell me I need to do all these courses and things, but I've been waiting months to do a course. Why is that? And she's been in this particular prison for over 6 months and still yet hasn't done anything. Una states that in terms of her punishment, it begins from when she's released. Just because you forget what it's like to live out there. You see, you're in a routine here, and it's not reality. So that's why I think people get scared about leaving here, because reality hits them when they're on their out. They have to deal with all the repercussions outside. When you come to prison, you're dealing with all that stuff, all the problems. It's your family who's left to deal with it. And for others, such as this prolific self-harmer, who started to self-harm in prison, Rini states, she's only a young woman, I don't have any future, and I'm sorry to say that. When you don't have a place to belong to, you don't have a future. Things are not easy for me, and honestly, you can't do anything to make things easy for you when you don't have the keys in your hands. In response to the lack of control, the debilitating and dehumanising acts of violence, she states, to self-harm makes me feel like I'm in control. I decide what I want to happen to me and when, because I live in a system where I don't decide about what happens to me. Later on she states, it's quite sad, when you say, right, I want to go now, and she's talking about her own death, that's you deciding. Like if you are in too much pain, you see no future, and you want to die. It is you who's deciding about your future. I make the choice of when I cut. It's me who's deciding what happens to me, even if it means to self-harm. In light that prison is an expensive failure, Carlin's vision of a woman-wise penology seems more salient today than 30 years ago. She argued that because of the criminal profiles, women in prison constitute a class of prisoners who are suitable to pilot an alternative vision to justice. Women are more likely than men to desist from offending, and a woman's recidivism is likely to be influenced less by the sentence she receives and more by other factors, i.e. structural, thus making this cohort an ideal pilot group. By turning our attention to the abolitionist debate, we can see how this perspective can take penal policy debate beyond alternatives to custody by creating a radical vision for justice. Abolitionism originated in campaigns from prisoners' rights and is defined by Sim as the abolitionist debate is increasingly connected with emerging discourses and debates around human rights and social justice, which they see as mechanisms for developing negative reforms, thereby promoting a response to social harm that is very different from the destructive prison and punishment systems that currently exist. From that abolitionist point of view, the criminal justice system claims that prisons protect people from being victimised by preventing and controlling crimes, which seems grossly, as research has suggested, grossly exaggerated. In the words of the Dutch abolitionist, Willem den Haan, the prison is counterproductive, difficult to control, and is itself a major social problem. Punishment is seen as a self-reproducing form of violence. Morally degrading and segregating people is especially risky when the logic of exclusion is reinforced by the lines of difference in terms of sex, race, class, culture and religion. As abolitionists like Matician have maintained, the prison has to be understood both as a material place of confinement and as an ideological signifier. Not only does the institution reinforce powerlessness and stigmatisation, but it also establishes, as Matisse argues, a structure which places members of one class in such a situation that the attention we may pay to other members of society is diverted. To conclude, as the prison system has reached a crisis point, illustrated by the increase in deaths in custody, incidents of self-harm and violence in prison, to name a few, the question we must ask is how best to break the cycle of crime which brings the same people back year in, year out, to repeated terms of imprisonment, disenfranchising whole sectors of the community. If women have shorter and less serious criminal careers than men, and all sentences disposable will show women to have fewer previous convictions than men, the question is then, why are women being sent to prison? Why are more women being sent to prison than ever before? It's only by questioning the role and function of the prison in advanced capitalist societies, addressing the level of collateral social harm brought by imprisonment, that we can begin to liberate the existing criminal justice and prison system by, as Ignazio Siloni argues in his book, The Sea Beneath the Snow, which is one of my favourites, published in 1943, that liberatory thoughts are always in existence, like a sea beneath the snow, buried under the weight of the state and its bureaucracy, capitalism and its waste, privilege and injustices, nationalism and its suicidal loyalties, religious differences and their superstitious separatism.